My brother, I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on RRR. I loved it. It was an insanely fun blockbuster. Okay, so let me just say something, okay? First and foremost, folks, this is part of the broadcast where I tell you a little bit about my personal news. For those of you who don't know, this is for all my parasocialists out there. Let me say one thing. Last night, I fucking watched one of the best movies that Netflix has to offer and one of the worst movies that Netflix has to offer. Back-to-back movie night. What am I doing? Am I crazy? Am I going crazy? What's that about? 2 movies in one night? Yes, that's right. 2 movies in one night. Can only happen in the United States of America, baby. Not happening in communist China. Okay? Right. Try to watch 2 movies in one night. What am I, on a fucking airplane? Huh? Am I flying? Am I flying overseas? 2 movies in one night? Won't happen in China. That's what they want to take away from you. Anyway. Also, RRR is 3 movies, technically, because it's like 3 fucking hours, like 3.5 hours or some shit. Crazy runtime. Sorry. Anyway, this is just... Wait, what is this? What is this, dude? What the fuck is this? You know what? Actually, shout out to Dio. I started watching We Own the City. Dio, like JoJo, exactly. Zawardo. Okay. Anyway, dude. Last night I watched RRR, and then I watched the worst fucking movie that Netflix has ever put out there. Okay, like the best movie, RRR, which is an Indian movie. Omni Audio, thank you for the 10 this us. It's fucking insane. 100% recommend. 10/10. You have to watch it. Okay. Like, dude, this shit is, first of all, God, I absolutely fucking love, like, horrible pacing. The score was fucking dog shit in Spiderhead 2. Like, even if the original sequence was like something that, I mean, even if the original underlying premise was like something to be interested in, it was literally, it was just so bad. Like, there were so many parts of it that was just awful. Just bad storytelling in general, bad writing, bad acting. But even though, like, I think Chris Hemsworth did a decent job, even though he was the wrong person for the role. You're too jacked and you're too fucking hot, dude. You can't be like a weird doctor, okay? It was just so unbelievable. Miles Teller, good actor, not great in his role in this movie either. Daily Wire making it seem like Biden investing $100 million to take cars off the road is a bad thing. Yeah, we'll talk about that. So basically, the director was dog shit. Yeah. New Jurassic World was worse. I'm not even gonna fucking touch that. I don't watch shit like that, so I don't know. I have to pee really bad, but we're gonna get started. I want to see what the fuck they were talking about on the Howie Mandel thing. I'm a Dahmer, never said the C word. They were censoring his NRA comments, not your name. Oh yeah. All right. Well, shouts out to Ethan for going on the Howie Mandel podcast. Apparently, he was killing it. I rarely ever see Ethan operating outside of like H3 production studios, so it's always fun. I think he's afraid of your haters coming for him. I have the streamable cussy link ready for you to download.
Crabs?
How can I download this? I can't download a streamable link, dude. Streamable, you can't download anymore, unfortunately.
See what? Go again. Oh. What?
Oh.
It doesn't let you download it anymore. I want you to be on Howie. The world needs to get a better idea of our Hassan. Okay. We'll do it later. You should have Ethan come over during a stream. Seeing him in the wild is pog. I agree. Anyway, all right. Daily Wire has some great takes about Brandon. Brandon says we're investing nearly $100 billion in public transit to take millions of cars off the road.
Almost $100 billion in public transit and rail. For all the studies show that it will take millions of cars off the road and significantly reduce pollution if there's a serious transportation system.
At this point in American brain rot, we've gotten to a point where, like, you can be making a fucking good argument and there needs to be zero disses on that argument. You don't even need to. You literally do not need to actually fucking say this is wrong, this is bad. You can just post something like, you know, a Democrat saying workers deserve more, more money. And the Republican side could just cut that and post it as is, and people will know that that's a bad thing. You don't even need to say that this is like a bad thing anymore. It's fucking wild, dude. That's where we're at. I'm willing to bet a Democrat could say something that Republicans actually like, and Republicans would still be like, yeah, no, that's fucked up. Or when Democrats say things like, we need to fund the police more, Jack. I love sucking off the cops. I want to suck off the cops as hard as possible. Republicans will still turn around and be like, nah, they're Democrats, so they don't mean it. They don't want to suck the cops dry. You know what I mean? They just don't want to believe it. Very strange situation. Now, before we get into the invention of individual responsibility, this video is kind of about that. What the fuck, dude? This is a then and now. I mean, this is 52 minutes long, brother. I feel like that's going to be maybe a tough one to go through, to sit through. But anyway. Check this out. Louisiana girl got a ticket for indecent exposure. What?
You see my outfit?
What?
I got a fucking ticket for indecent exposure in Winfield, Louisiana. Okay? Indecent exposure. All of my bits are covered. The fuck? Are you kidding me? At a family event where there's alcohol being literally handed out for free, and that's a family event, and 3 female cops came up to me and gave me a fucking ticket. I live a mile down the road. They literally could have just been like, hey, ma'am, could you put some clothes on? And I would have been like, yeah, cool. I'll be right back. But no, they stood there and gave me a fucking ticket for
Louisiana is on a different fucking playing field, dude. In a competition that is ever so fucking fierce, where each southern state is trying to outdo one another for being like the worst, the absolute fucking worst. I mean, literally the fucking worst. Louisiana forgot that it's the state that hosts Mardi Gras, okay, Fat Tuesday, and decided it's actually no longer the state where like people fuck and suck and have fun with one another. And instead is the state where they apparently are going to try and criminalize abortion to one of the most restrictive ways that I have seen thus far. Under Louisiana's latest abortion law, anyone who mails abortion pills to residents of the state faces 6 months imprisonment. Anyone who performs an abortion by means of an abortion-inducing drug other than the patient faces 5 years with hard labor. And the law, of course, unsurprisingly, makes no exception for rape or incest, which is the only way that a Louisiana legislature has ever had sex, of course. 5 years hard labor. That is kind of admitting what their main purpose is here. You know what I mean? Slave labor is a huge part of Louisiana's economy. Now, I obviously had some thoughts about this. I was like, what are they going to do? Fucking extradite me to Louisiana? Good luck with that. Like, what are they? Are we going to start a fucking civil war over, people sending abortion pills to people in Louisiana seeking out abortions? Like, what? Good luck. Okay. And people were fucking saying that, like, you could go to jail. They could do that. Like, no, you can't do that, actually. It's not illegal in California to send abortion pills to someone in Louisiana. It's not illegal to consume abortion pills in California. It's not illegal to ship abortion pills. There's no federal law mandating interstate commerce that stops or prevents the delivery and shipping of abortion pills. So how the fuck would that work? Now, depending on the crime, obviously, if you're violating federal laws, or if you have, if you're being prosecuted or investigated for a murder or something like that, yeah, you will be extradited to Louisiana. That's not how that works. But you can't do it for something like this. You know, Dems would cave on this if it came to it. No, there are some instances where, like, as long as I avoid the fucking state, good luck. As long as I avoid your fucking dumbass state, then what are you going to do? Arrest me, dude? You're going to extradite me to fucking Louisiana? Take me to Angola? Good luck. I 100% do not believe that they are capable of doing anything like this. This is just one of those, like, frivolous bullshit fucking laws that they're writing. Like, you can't do that. It's not an enforceable law, is what I mean. Unless you end up going to Louisiana, and in which case you could get fucked, yes. In a 6-3 decision, Piker v. Louisiana has been decided in favor of permanent incarceration for all Turks shipping illegal goods. Now, there's also probably going to be counter laws that blue states are pushing for, like Connecticut, for example. I'm certain California will push for something like this as well, that offers additional protections to those who want to get an abortion, those who are assisting in others getting an abortion in red states like this. It's just, again, really idiotic paperwork, really idiotic bureaucratic hurdles from either side on this equation. Obviously, there's no moral equivalency here. The blue side is the correct one in this one, no doubt. I mean, make no mistake. But the idiotic wedge issue surrounding abortion, okay, the back and forth is happening as a consequence of like a tiny percentage of incredibly active voters that are a fundamental part of the Republican voter bloc, an important constituency, okay? Oh, fuck this. Sorry. An important constituency for the Republicans, and that's the reason why that we're even having this conversation to begin with. It's fucking bullshit. It's absolute fucking bullshit. Can't fly over either. They're going to scramble the jets, the ground you're playing, like that one journalist. Yeah, that's not happening. But yeah, I don't think this is enforceable, for the record. But I do feel for the wonderful people living in the hellhole that is Louisiana. Okay? It's just unnecessarily cruel. It's fucking ridiculous. It's just another way to try to instill fear in a population that is looking for accessibility for a routine medical procedure. Okay? It's harming women. It's harming people that do not want to carry pregnancies to term. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's cruel. It's unjustifiable. And it is, of course, a main plank of the Republican Party's agenda for those reasons. Now, let's take a look at what Brandon is saying.
So let's be honest with one another. My message is simple. To the companies running gas stations and setting those prices at the pump, this is a time of war, global peril, Ukraine. These are not normal times.
Brother, no one gives a fuck. For people who think like this is adequate messaging. For people who like think, for example, anyone cares about the January 6th commission outside of people who are already going to vote for the fucking Democratic Party. For people who like for people who think that average Americans give a shit about like the war in Ukraine as anything beyond like a nuisance for them at this stage in their lives, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Okay, gas stations don't set prices. I mean, they technically do. They could eat into their profit margins. That's not true. But ultimately, there is OPEC. There are the American oil and gas producers. Okay, and then there are gas stations, and the margin, and then there's the tax. Right? There's the federal government tax on gas. Now, that the least significant part of that. As far as like who actually adds on to the pricing there is ironically is the federal gas tax, which Biden is cutting now. That's 18.4 cents a gallon. And I think like 24 cents for diesel. Okay? Now, another part of that makes like a fraction of profits off of that in that equation is the gas stations themselves. The real profiteers in the situation, obviously, are the OPEC nations that are producing this, the cartel, and also the American oil and gas refiners. But OPEC taking the lion's share of the profits in that situation. Now, every single part of this, with the exception of the federal government, every single part of this equation is now trying to make up for lost profits over the course of 2020 and 2021. Okay? That is precisely why we are in this situation. Because they are functionally fucking punishing everyone, all the consumers they possibly can through price gouging to make up for lost profits. Part of the reason for that is because, and this might not come as a surprise for many of you, especially if you're in this community, is the financialization of corporations. American companies are no longer companies that produce. The American population is no longer a productive population. It is a consumer force. The American corporations in its entirety are no longer corporations that have any productive capacity. Even if they're the oil and gas industry, they are financial companies. They are basically banks, okay? This is the same for Boeing, and it's the fucking same for Exxon. What do I mean by that? because their main purpose and their legal responsibility in this circumstance is their fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to increase to increase the profit margins or maintain shareholder value. What they engage in a circumstance like this is not for the best of not necessarily for the best of the citizens, okay, but instead for corporate profits. And corporate profits dictate that increasing supply and restricting demand in a time when supplies are lower as a consequence of the 2010, the 2020 and 2021 lull period where people weren't purchasing as much gasoline because they weren't driving as much. Is to maintain that same level of supply or only increase gradually. Okay? That's it. That's exactly what's happening here. And there is functionally nothing we can do about it unless we institute like the Defense Production Act. But considering how powerful the oil and gas industry is, that's not going to happen. They do not produce more gas. They restrict supply to keep price high and reinvest profits into stock buyback programs and buying government bonds. You are absolutely correct. I'm surprised that a fucking anarchist would understand this concept, but it is 100% true. Instead of going along with the drill baby drill mentality of the early 90s and all the way up until like the fucking early 2000s era, the oil and gas industry now is focused on stock buybacks, okay, and improving shareholder value through financial instruments rather than actually increasing the productive capacity, which they absolutely can do. You saw the Climate Town video, Bad Chest? No, this isn't even just the Climate Town video. There are plenty of other resources that I've read into, including the oil and gas industry's very own lobbyists that are currently working against one another. It's really interesting. If you actually look at like press releases from the different actors involved in this, everyone is literally shit-slinging right now to abdicate responsibility, to push responsibility over to another person. You have the refiners that are saying it's OPEC plus, which there's truth to, and then also saying, well, maybe the fucking maybe the gas stations themselves are a little bit responsible for this. Everybody's obviously talking about how the federal government is taking 18.4 cents of taxes and tacking that on as though that's massive when it's not. It's literally the tiniest fraction out of any other fucking civilized nation. Okay, and then you have. Yeah, and then you have the refiners, or you have OPEC countries not even saying anything because they do control most of the. They take the lion's share of profits in this circumstance, but it's pretty funny to see. Like, if you read any of these, if you see any of these agencies or like Petroleum Institute fucking think tanks writing think pieces and shit. If you read any of them, like I have. You would see that everyone is fucking blaming everybody, okay? I mean, here, let me see if I can find the article I was reading earlier today. It was like Dallas Fed. The Dallas Fed actually wrote an interesting article about oil and gas prices and who is responsible for it. Not the survey, but oh yeah, here it is. This is a great article. Don't look to oil companies to lower high retail gasoline prices. The rise of U.S. retail gasoline prices in March 2022 is from the Dallas Fed. Has triggered a debate about whether U.S. oil companies are doing enough to rein in high gasoline prices and whether these companies should be held accountable for not increasing the production of crude oil. Nope, don't look at them. Not their fault. They have no financial interest in increasing supply right now. They just don't. Profit margins are incredibly high. Increasing supply at a time like this would only lower the profit margin. But you, the consumer, will get fucking shafted at the pump. That is how this works, okay? And given the corporate consolidation that we have, through a very legal and very cool sequence known as price leadership, not price fixing, of course. Never that. Never that. You arrive at this this incredibly high oil price, gas prices. Can domestic refineries even accept domestic oil? Biden made drilling harder. It's all Biden. Are you stupid? They absolutely would increase supply if they could. Wrong. Biden offered more drilling permits in the beginning of his administration than Donald Trump did. So wrong. Wrong again, Bob. Are you stupid? Yes, I am stupid, but apparently not as stupid as you are. And they absolutely would increase supply if they could. Also wrong. Literally ask any single fucking CEO involved, any CEO or any corporate level executive at any number of these oil and gas industry giant corporations, and they will tell you, of course we're not going to fucking increase supply. Why the fuck would we increase supply? We're making fucking money. We care about our shareholders more than we care about anything else. So not only are you wrong, but you're just angry. The more they drill, the more money they make, genius. That's fucking not true. It's not true. Now, the sad part about this is that you're just wrong. Of course you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Oh, I'm wrong, am I? Yes, Twitch is woke trash. You are 1,000% wrong. You are. This is not how this works. If oil prices are this high and you're making a higher profit margin with less product, okay? You're making a higher profit margin with less product. When oil prices are high, increasing supply would literally lower prices. It costs money to fucking drill and refine, dude. What are you talking about? I mean, people who are like the economics understanders are always the funniest when it comes to actually understanding how economics works. Last time a barrel price was this amount, $115. Gas was 150 cents cheaper. Anyway, ultimately, we shouldn't be pushing for more drilling. What we should be pushing for instead is renewable energy initiatives, which will not solve the problem in the short term. But you know what would solve the problem in the short term? Nationalization, which will never happen, obviously, because that would imply that the federal government is doing something. Simple graph for that chatter. There you go. Cartel cut supply to raise price. Yeah, let me find the fucking CEO again, like the classic. Here's the clip. Thank you, Dan TC240. Here it is. Here is Bloomberg exclusive talking to Scott Sheffield, the CEO of Pioneer Natural Resources. Okay. Asking him a direct question. If the president phoned you up and said, you know what, we need some more oil, what are you going to say to him? Let's hear it directly from the fucking mouth of someone who is involved in this.
So if the president phoned you up, Scott, and said, you know what, we need some more oil, what are you going to say to him?
I'll tell him we have a pact with it's all about the shareholders. Our shareholders own this company. They want a return of cash.
So if the president
Yeah. Open up more land to drill and you will get tons of companies lined up to drill. You are wrong. There are already plenty of unused permits currently. You are wrong. You are wrong. You are wrong. You are wrong. I am showing you that you are wrong. I already showed you that you are wrong. With no oil on it, that is wrong. That is fundamentally incorrect. You are incorrect. Joe Brandon has opened up more drilling permits than Donald Trump has. I already showed you. There's like 9,000 unused permits currently. Okay? You are wrong. You are wrong. Please understand that you are wrong. I know you're doing this for attention, but there are a lot of fucking idiots who feel like you. So I think it's an important thing to address here, okay? You're just making stuff up now. Now you're saying with no oil on it. You're just not correct. Drilling for more oil in the United States will not lower gas prices because the production of U.S. oil does not set the price of gas, but the global price of oil does. Oil and gas are global commodities subject to the whims of the notoriously volatile global markets. Their prices are particularly sensitive to geopolitical events and investor sentiment. Part of that is because investors are also no longer as bullish on investing into the oil and gas industry as well. That's another reason, okay? Hasn't sent one source? Yeah, of course he hasn't sent one fucking source. These are all fabrications. This is just a made up thing in his mind. Okay? Even though Russian oil made up less than 2% of the U.S. supply, ending Russian oil imports still hit the U.S. consumers hard. In other words, this is not simply about balancing supply and demand. In fact, in this case, sky-high gas prices came from a confluence of events. COVID-19 restrictions eased and economies rebounded rapidly. Demand for oil spiked. Pandemic-related supply chain disruptions exacerbated the situation, causing gas prices to go up. Then more recently, perhaps most saliently, Russia. Oil markets were roiled when Russia, a petrostate whose exports supply 8% of the global oil supply, used its fossil fuel earnings to finance another unjust war. The response by the oil and gas industry was to perpetuate the lie that more drilling would ease the impact on the United States. Of course, they didn't note that ending our dependence on oil is the clearest way to distance ourselves, but that's for the long term. Okay? And they ignored the ugly reality that this very dependence on oil and gas has routinely contributed to sowing political chaos and bloodshed like we're seeing in Ukraine. Biden has not banned oil drilling and has issued more than 3,500 new permits to drill on federal lands this year. That's 34% more than the Trump administration did in his first year. But that didn't stop the oil and gas industry from pushing the lie that they just didn't have enough permits. They even went so far as to use the Keystone Pipeline, which they routinely lie and say is a massive jobs provider, which of course pipelines don't actually provide long-term jobs. It's when you're building the pipeline that you have a lot of jobs. But once the pipeline is built, it's like 2 fucking jobs that it provides. So that's another lie. But the natural gas pipeline coming in from fucking Canada is not actually going to impact anything about anything with respect to what the American fucking oil and gas industry is doing. So that's not even true. Every part of this is just a lie. And you regularly fucking repeat lies that Fox News is telling. That's literally not true, Hassan. Well, really? Pipelines actually... Well, you're right, actually. Pipelines do create a lot of jobs. When there's an inevitable environmental disaster and leaks happen, and then there's a lot of jobs for cleanup. If that's what you mean, then yeah, you're correct. But pipelines are a jobs creator for a very short period of time in the duration of the creation of the pipeline, and that's it. You know? You got a take on that? No, you don't. Okay, got it. Oil prices jumped as a major U.S. fuel pipeline restarted, but COVID concerns cap gains. People also don't understand that, like, there's a lot of the instability is also baked into the supply. Okay? They see war brewing, and they can counter it. They can increase supply, but they don't. That's it. Also, an increase in prices down to sanctions on Russia, not because of free market. It's literally because sanctions and limiting supply from Russia's 9 million barrels of output a day. Keystone XL pipeline would only create 35 permanent jobs. There you go. It wasn't 2, it was 35. I was wrong. Sorry. Anyway, please just show this graph. It clearly shows they're controlling supply. Yeah, I mean, of course they are. Of course they are. They literally are. They are. We know that they are. I mean, that's why Brandon goes and talks to the fucking Saudi Arabia. Why do you think they do that? Do you think it's just like because Brandon loves talking to fucking Mohammed bin Salman? You think they're boys? No. And yes, this is stagnant, but the prices are up. And the reason why this is stagnant yet the prices are up is because the demand is up. You're looking at oil supply from September 2021, crude oil production from September 2021 to January 2022. The demand for oil in this process went up dramatically. Okay? Look at the massive dip here because of COVID. They still haven't gotten back to their pre-COVID levels of crude oil production. Anyway, I don't understand why people want more drilling and pipeline jobs. Literally one of the most deadly jobs in America. I mean, it's also ruining the fucking environment. Demand went down dramatically as a consequence of lockdowns and COVID, okay? Less travel, less service industry jobs, less people on the roads across the board, obviously. Okay? Guy says, wait, hold on. Where is it? Hassan, you're wrong on this one. Look at the 5-year. They are not restricting the supply. That's really interesting that you say that because 2019 levels is not reached in this circumstance either, so... Like, why? Why are you saying this? And by the way, since 2018 and 2017, obviously, like, the need for oil is increasing year over year, too, regardless. You'll get it. You'll get to it. You'll find one. You'll find one eventually. And it's like, it's so strange to be like, dude, they're not restricting supply. They're saying they're restricting supply. Some of you motherfuckers are like operating in a similar capacity to like Republicans when they're like, well, did the killer actually write a manifesto saying he was a white supremacist and that he wanted to kill black people? Oh, he did? Well, I still don't believe it. Like, bro, what do you mean? They're saying it. They're actually saying it. They're literally like, no, we're restricting supply because we want to make up for lost fucking profits in the past 2 years as a consequence of the pandemic. And you're still like, well, I don't believe that. I don't know. Why? They're just openly stating it. So what more do you want? What more do you fucking want?
Remember this? Remember that moment in April?
Red flag laws would turn around and actually push for it. Like, if you ask the Republicans, like they keep saying like, oh, red flag laws, it's gonna fuck everything up. Red flag laws is gonna fuck everything up. They're gonna come after you. They're gonna say that you're mentally ill and you might be actually a little crazy. You might have made some fucking insane threats. Maybe you beat your wife, but like they're coming after you, brother. Matt Gaetz' take on the matter.
Let the message from this committee hearing to Republican senators be astonishingly clear. If you back red flag laws as some reflexive response to some emotion that you have, you betray your voters, you are a traitor to the Constitution, the Second Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, you do nothing to make mass shootings less likely, and you put a target on the back of your constituents. To be
Matt Gaetz be like, I should be able to traffic 17-year-olds and still have access to weapons, okay? It's the Florida way.
Subject to bizarre proceedings that you wouldn't see in any other
He's like, what's next? You want to disarm Jeffrey Epstein? Fucked up.
Circumstance that has a profound impact on your rights. And these will be abused.
Florida
they are
man.
being abused. I think there's some that would probably red flag some of your colleagues in the Senate. How long until the conversations about
He's
kicking
doing
Senator
it. He's
Hawley
saying
off of
it.
aircraft turn into conversations about taking his guns away? You see, this isn't just about guns. It's about power. And what the Democrats want is to ensure that the government has the power to take your guns away without giving you due process. And shame on any Republican in the Senate that would pave the way to that type of deprivation of our liberty and our constitutional rights.
Fuck yeah. All right, let's see what this fucking psycho had to say about it, too.
Lindsey Graham.
Here's the members of the Freedom Caucus, you know, the brave, bold, truth-telling patriots.
Who promised me just a few years ago that he would not violate due process rights with red flag laws, broke his promise. Mitch McConnell. Complete failure to Republicans. Murkowski, Portman, Romney, Tillis, Young. These are the Republican senators that Republican voters do not support anymore. We've got to change our Republican Party, and it needs to happen right here. Lindsey Graham.
That's awesome. They're just completely insane, dude. There's no other way to look at this than insanity. Guys, but it's irrelevant. Literally irrelevant. And no, it's not even like leftist infighting. I mean, like, it's irrelevant in the sense that what kind of political power do they have? Like, they have nothing. Who gives a shit? I don't care. Some Sky News propaganda to anger you?
So I missed the bus, so I had to take a cab, and the prices were much higher because of the strikes and everything.
How do they even find this person? It's like 18 to 34, which is, of course, the people that take the trains and rely on public transit more, have like overwhelming support for the strikes. That's wild. It is like statistically difficult to fucking find someone to stand in opposition to the current strikes happening. Literally all leftists do is infighting. I mean, I'm sure the anger, for as far as I read into the situation, which I didn't read too much, is totally valid. I'm still saying I don't care. Please. I just don't care. They're irrelevant. Sorry, it's just the truth. But yeah, it's funny that it's funny to see, like, it's funny that they were able to find like a young person who's against it when it's statistically way less likely that they are.
So that added a bit to the stress because I have an exam too, and I also have a friend who's like 30 minutes late because of the train strikes too. So it's really affecting us. But
30 minutes late for her exam?
Yeah, like she's coming right now, but it's like our exam's about to start, so it's affecting like all of us.
How do you feel about that? That must be that's the last thing you need, right, when you've got an exam?
It's really stressful because you want to be focusing on your revision instead of
look at that.
Like,
look at that, dude.
On time.
Luckily, I was able to come a bit earlier for my exam.
Look at that. Look at that. Please look at that. 27% absolutely justified. That's what majority say the rail strikes this week are justified. A third say they are not. 18 to 34, which is the category that uses the fucking railroads the most, right? The railways the most. 1834, 27% absolutely justified, 45% somewhat justified. That's crazy.
Because I did leave the house about an hour earlier than I would usually, but I can definitely like see the added stress when you're trying to revive.
It's like, I think this is such a fucking weird waste of a kid's guide to fighting socialism.
Cuba is just another example of the damage that socialism can do to a country, but the radical left is pushing it on America. Kids need to know why it won't work, and Mike Huckabee wants to help by sending you the Kid's Guide to Fighting Socialism free for a limited time. This important gift will help kids learn why socialism is bad for America and how they can help fight back. It's part of a new gift bundle that includes a free magazine and video lesson too. To learn more, just visit kidsfightsocialism.com. That's kidsfight